What is consciousness? The live stream of consciousness is on a quest to unravel the mysteries of existence. Every episode, we ask the fundamental question that has captivated human minds for centuries. Is consciousness merely a product of our brains, or does it connect us to something greater? Explore the very fabric of our thoughts. Don't miss a moment. Expand your awareness and tap into the boundless potential that resides within you. Welcome to the live stream of consciousness.
Yes. Hello and welcome to the live stream of consciousness. I am Michael Zinn, and I am here to guide you through existing with me in this moment in my happy place. Those of you who have been here before know that this is my happy place. It's even the happy place of some of you guys. I see Ninja Kitty out there, who I want to actually give a little shout out to. Ninja Kitty. I think Ninja Kitty is one of the only people who I know who have probably been here every Thursday as much as I have. So I'm going to give out a shout to Ninja Kitty, and also Tim. I see Ninja is saying hello to me and Tim for being there all the time. And I actually typed Ninja Kitty today into AI, and this is what I got. So this is a little tribute to you, Ninja Kitty, for always being there. I was just thinking about you today and like how long I've been doing this and how you've always been there. So that's Ninja Kitty. And that wasn't the first try, by the way. The first try was not as nice. It was this one. And I was like, no, I think I got to do that again. And I tried until I got something that I really liked. So that is for you. Thank you for always being here. And you know what? I was just listening to that intro. Shout out to Jesse Blaze. Thank you for recording that for me. He's back on the live stream in spirit, which is kind of cool. But I was like, does that sound preachy? Does it sound like I'm trying to like preach something to people? And you guys know I talked about an incident where I had somebody who told me I was just, preaching BS, and all you got to do is be positive, and what does that even mean? And blah blah blah. So I don't know. Anyway, do you guys like that? I think it's great. I think it's a good intro, and I can actually use my old intro as my outro now. And Ninja Kitty saying thank you. Oh my God, that's amazing. Yes, that was fun. I was inspired to use you as a prompt for AI today, Ninja Kitty. So I'm super excited because I am taking a little step outside of my comfort zone, which I've been talking about. That's really the only place that you grow. And I think that my guest today is also taking a step outside of her comfort zone, which is really awesome because we get to have this amazing energy exchange. And I'm stepping out of my comfort zone in that I don't know really much about my guest. Everything that I know about my guest is all intuited through my relationship with her mom. And her mom was on the show a few weeks back. Leslie Slavin is somebody who I went to art school with and reconnected with on Facebook. And it's really cool because now that I got to know her a little bit and a little bit more about her upbringing, I kind of understand the person that I experienced back when I was in college. I understand her a little more. I don't think I understood her then. And of course, I didn't understand myself really the same way I understand myself now back then either. So, everything changes. But anyway, enough of my incoherent rambling. My guest tonight is the daughter of Leslie Slavin, who's I think I started intuiting this moment when I heard her name, and her name is True. So I've been excited because you guys know how much I love play on words and playing with words, and I've been able to build today's episode as the true story, where we get to hear the true story. And I'm really excited because I will be hearing it for the first time, getting to know who True is, and also the power of words and thoughts. I think True, from what I intuit, is somebody who really is living up to her name. She is her name. She embodies her name, and I don't even think she fully understands it right now either, but she kind of does. And I think that that's where she gets her energy from. What's up, fun mommy? Good to see you out there, and Ninja Kitty, thank you so much. You are my happy place. This is great. This is a great place to connect the collective. And again, this is cool because tonight I'm going out of my circle of friends and I'm welcoming to the show a very special guest. And before I put it off any longer, I'm going to do it now. Welcome to the live stream of consciousness, True. How you doing, True?
Hi, thank you so much for inviting me into your happy place to jump out of our comfort zones. Thank
Yes.
you.
How awesome is that? Isn't that cool?
That's what it's all about, right? That's what connection's all about. Thank you.
And what's cool is it's not uncomfortable. It's comfortable, right? It's like,
yeah.
It's fun. It's cool. It's exciting. It's all good stuff. Yeah, your name is True, which is super interesting. Do you have a last name? Or do you just go by True?
So fascinatingly enough, my last name is True. It's different than both my mother and my father. I get my own little something. And
cool.
then my first name is Baby because, believe it or not, when I was born, I was indeed a baby. So
I can believe that. Yeah.
Yeah. Originally, I was just supposed to have one name, like Share, just True.
Wow.
But apparently, in order to have a social security card, you're going to need to fill out that first and last name slot, right?
Wow.
And so my mom had been, referring to me as her baby True when, I was in her womb and stuff. And so when I emerged and needed another name, she was like, okay, we'll put True as the last name and Baby as the first name. So, yeah.
What an amazing start to the True story. I love it. Oh my God. Super excited. This is great. So whatever the circumstance is, and we may or may not discuss it, you needed to have a name on the birth certificate, and Baby True is your actual given birth name. And I think, again, I don't know how significant that is, and getting emotional even saying it. It's amazing just through the energy that I remember from your mom, and we reconnected, and the energy we rekindled, and knowing how passionate she is, and again, not really knowing the entire story. I know that she's not currently with a partner, so I know your dad's probably not in the picture. I've made some assumptions, but again, they're really not judgmental in any way, and the energy is so loving and powerful, and that was something that your mom talked about, when she grew up, how surrounded by love she was. And I mentioned how that kind of explains the person I experienced. And I think she was a little probably overwhelmed in college, right? By all of the debauchery that was going on, probably relative to what she experienced. And I certainly probably was on like the stoner side of the people that she knew. So she was probably a little afraid of me. But it's cool that, many years later, she sees me doing this show and she's like, wow, look, there's another side to that dude, and we reconnect and all of that stuff. So it's good to see you, Hat Powser, out there, always coming in and saying hello. And yes, it is very cool that you are here. So, okay. So before we get into your story, we do have to take care of some business. This is the live stream of consciousness after all. I don't know if any of my audience is sick of talking about it. Probably not, because they're here again, aren't they? And we always talk about consciousness and energy and some of the essences of being. And the first question I always ask everybody, because the answer is culminative, and it continues to grow with all of these wonderful answers. And that is, what is consciousness? What does consciousness mean to you? Maybe True.
Well, I love that you said that, this answer is cumulative, because I think, like, even just especially watching your podcast, hearing the answers, mine continues to expand, as does my consciousness. So, but I definitely wanted to, tap into my generation and ask some of my friends, like, what they think it is, and see, like, how much on the same page we were. And I think the consensus that we got to was that, like, you can have your physical consciousness, right? And you can go unconscious. You can go into, a coma. Who knows what your subconscious is doing in that time, right? But you have your physical conscious, and then you have the collective conscious, and that connects you to everything around me now, to you, to the trees, to, the water I drink. All of us is a part of this, universal collective. We're from the source and we're still connected to the source. And even like within academia, like they say, like, we're made of star cells, like genuinely, we really are like a part of this whole collective. And I think, life journey, at least for me, is like tapping into that collective more and more, and like expanding my consciousness through understanding how big it really is, and I feel like, and that even goes with like, I share, like I am a part of the same consciousness as like those who, maybe I don't like them, maybe I don't agree with what they've done, but it's still like, that's why we have to meet everybody with compassion, because we're all on this journey, no matter how different it is, together, which I think is beautiful,
That's awesome. That is beautiful and wonderfully put. Beautiful, beautiful. Can I ask you a question? Because I don't think I even know the answer to this. How old are you, True?
I turned 21 in January.
So 21 years old. Amazingly wise for 21. Awesome. And do you prefer to be called True or Baby or Baby True?
I always say it's my name is a gift my mother gave me, so I'm never going to turn any aspect of it down. I know some people call their partners Baby, so if people maybe don't want to call me that for that reason, I completely understand. A lot of people just call me my full name, but whatever makes you comfortable, I respond.
I love it. I love it. And how awesome is the response to that? I'm imagining it can't be ever bad.
I've been so lucky, because I know some people with unique names maybe go through like some bullying or trials and tribulations with that. And a name like Baby True, like baby, people could have been mean, but I was never met with that ever, which has been nice. And I don't have a middle name either, so I'm looking for another Baby True out there. I wonder, we'll connect one day.
That's amazing. No, I think that's certainly unique, which is really kind of cool, because I think that in this journey of consciousness, especially as you get older, you realize that you are unique, and everybody is unique, right? And that's a cool thing. That's like a really cool thing. That's like what you bring to this existence is you, right? So I think, again, that's the significance of, I think, what your name is, and the circumstances that brought that name to you, to allow you to be who you are. I mean, again, I barely know you. I met you with your mom, just hanging on your mom's shoulder, talking to your mom when we were just getting set to do our thing. And I just knew there was something about you and your relationship with her. And, and some of the, again, especially after the episode with her, and I learned some things about her, and I say her, I mean Leslie. Were just really amazing and beautiful. And again, I know there is certainly some deeper purpose to your journey. As you go, I'm sure you're finding it more and more. I can only imagine. 21 years old is a good age to understand the magic of that, and be able to appreciate that. So I'm excited for you. Before we get into that, I guess you've already kind of laid the groundwork that I understand our beliefs are going to be very similar about spirituality, about the existence of other dimensions, possibly, people who have passed still having energetic signatures, that we can communicate with or somehow sense, right? So my question is, do you have a story or a moment that you could share with us that when you first realized that, when that first became evident to you?
Yeah, so I think like when I entered into this world, with the fluorescent lighting and the doctors scrambling to do whatever, I have a personal belief that like kids, especially like, young kids, that they are very connected to where they were before. I do think that there was a place they were before conception. And then I think that connection stays pretty, strong throughout the childhood. Of course, we dim it down with the way we have society set up and stuff.
Sure.
But I think, when I came into this world, my family, greeted me with so much love and so much, they allowed me to fully explore myself and my beliefs in a way that was natural to my childlike intuition. And so like I always felt connected to what I'll say is my God, which is just like the source that I was kind of referring to, if that makes sense.
Awesome.
I know a lot of people have a different definition of that word.
I love the definition.
Thank you. But then, so like I always felt that, and I still feel it now. And it is an like it's a journey, connecting more with it, especially with, the responsibilities of like life, and like still trying to connect with that kind of more, I guess, spiritual, if that's the right word, aspect. But then I do remember like the first time that I realized that this wasn't it, and that there was like a beyond this kind of life. Like I came from somewhere, now I'm here, and there's another step. And I think when I was a young girl, I was probably like 4 or 5, and my mother was participating in a dance show, and I was watching one of her rehearsals, and I had never seen it before. And there was a part of the show where all the women like collapse. And so they were dancing, and I'm enjoying myself, and then I see my mother collapse. And I remember I was so young, I had no concept of death. I don't think I'd been taught about death yet. I definitely hadn't seen it on TV or anything like that.
Right.
And so I had a very visceral physical and mental reaction to seeing my mother like fall. I started bawling, crying. I ran to her. Everybody was like, "Oh, what's going on?" And then shortly after that, she was diagnosed with cancer. And that's when I first was kind of taught that like there's a mortality, that it's possible to be either taken from this space or to leave this space. And I think that's definitely like something that I'm still, of course, wondering. Of course, I don't claim to know what happened, like the answers of after we leave this world, but that was definitely the first time that I realized that there's another veil to be passed. That kind of makes sense.
Wow. True. Baby True. What a brilliant moment. Like really that like I'm getting a little choked up. I have probably one of your friends out there, Feather Mountain Pressing, True is wise beyond her years, which is definitely what I sensed and why I have you on my show. And Grace Grella, thanks you for being here. I thank you for being here. Love the golden aura of light behind True. I was totally thinking that. I was absolutely like, wow, look at that. Look at how angelic she's looking and how brilliantly you're speaking, and really just awesome. I love that you shared that story. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
That's wonderful and really it makes so much sense. I see that you have brought a ton of people here who are quietly sitting in the audience. That's totally fine with me, but feel free to interact. I can bring your comments up on screen, and I do have, oh my god, where is it? It's got to be close by. I don't see it. Oh, here it is. I know they talk about, hit subscribe, ring the bell. I have an actual bell here, so if you subscribe to the YouTube channel and tell me in the chat, I will ring my bell for you. The one gimmick I have here on the live stream of consciousness recently, thanks to one of my viewers, Jill, she brought that bell for me. So I figured I would use it for the show. That is awesome. That is just really a wonderful story. And I think everybody here can tell how connected you are to the things that you're saying, and how important they are. What also I think is very cool and part of this manifestation, excuse me, of your name. Let me just drink some of my water here. Is the fact that when we met and I said, hey, what do you do? What I want to be in my show and all of this. Like I looked at your Instagram page and you're a beautiful, beautiful young woman who is modeling and acting. And I think I have you as a model, an actor, a performer. So you're doing music as well. And a humanitarian. And again, it was just the vibe of what I knew about your mom, where I was like, I just need to know more about True. I need to know the true story. So tell me more about the true story. You told me an awesome beginning to it, how you got your name, Baby True, which is wonderful. What happened next? I mean, you told me that you were surrounded by love and allowed to explore. So what was that like? I mean, tell me about your experience up until now, up until 21.
Okay. Well, to make a short story endless. No, I'm just kidding. I was born in California, and I was definitely born of love. Like my parents, they love each other, and they still do. And that I'm very grateful for. But as you said, I did grow up in a single family, a single parent household with my mother. And so I was born in California, and then we moved up to Oregon. I was raised around my mother, my aunt, my uncle, in a very, very, in a small town, kind of, I don't know if you know about Tloc cheese, but where the cheese comes from in Oregon. I was raised in a small town on the coast there. And it was a community, definitely maybe a little hippy dippy, I don't know, but it was a community that helped each other out, that provided each other with food and love and music. And,
Hmm.
I grew up like with my bare feet in the grass, dancing
I
around,
love
having
that.
a
Yeah.
great time like that. And then that's when my mother was diagnosed with breast cancer and had to go
Mhm.
through that journey. And again, like I said, that community support, like that's the first time that I really saw what that looks like and how important I
Right.
think that that is, because they came together to help her raise me. Then they came together to help her go through that journey kind of, alone. Like she had her sister, she had, my uncle and me, but, she was my sole caregiver. And that, that's a lot of pressure on a woman.
Mhm,
And
mhm, mhm,
so after
mhm.
that, we were like, okay, like you did that, you survived, thank you, we're great. Let's go move somewhere warmer. So we left the again and came over here to New Mexico, and we've been here about 13 years. I've gone
Cool.
to like great schools, met great people. I was able to go to an amazing arts high school and like learn a bit about like my passions through that. And then graduated class of 2020. So I was one of those people who had that Zoom graduation, super awkward, super, interesting. Definitely, glad that I got to, because in so many ways, I am trained with so many other people in my age. Like we all didn't get to graduate. So we all felt that together. And it was such a new thing. And it was like when the world was so, like, I think most of us weren't even thinking about not being able to graduate because so many people were being affected by this very spooky thing that was,
Mhm.
COVID-19 thing, and so
Change the world for sure. Yeah.
changed the world. And
Yeah.
um and so yeah, life these past few years have been adjusting to that, trying to be in university, trying to figure out that whole online schooling thing, trying to figure out, you know, how to work when times, when things start to open up again. And it's been a cool journey. I'm grateful that I get to experience it with everyone here, because it's definitely like a unique moment in history. But growing up, I was definitely taught, we are lucky to be here and we're lucky to help other people that are here. And like when I had like birthday parties and stuff growing up, the whole community would come, and like instead of getting gifts, we would choose like a foundation or something, and people would donate to it, and then we'd get to give like the load to them, and like good things like that, that just
Oh,
like,
that's awesome.
yeah, like fun things like that. So I definitely grew up like thinking like, okay, helping people is definitely a main reason why I'm here. So like how can we do that on a grand scale? And so that's kind of where I'm at right now, I guess. But yeah.
That's a wonderful, wonderful place to be. And again, it's a real good testament to your mom and even to your mom's mom, to the love that your mom received growing up, and the journey that she shared with us. And I feel bad because I'm sure that a lot of that stuff is a little private to her because she didn't talk about a lot of that stuff, but I really appreciate you sharing that. And it is, I think it's important for my audience to see, because everybody's got a story, you know what I mean? And that's really what my show is about, and what my fascination with connecting with everybody is about, is that, you know, I think I haven't heard a story that isn't inspiring to me. I mean, when someone actually sits and tells you their story, you know what I mean? It's like not many people will. So I got to say, I really appreciate that very much. And again, it was just kind of this intuition that said, you have something to say, and maybe it was the idea even of, I didn't know how old you were, maybe it was the idea of the things that I like to talk about, finding out how a 21-year-old felt about that. And I love the idea of what you said, like you were almost like, oh, here's an opportunity to see how my friends, what they think about it, or do they even think about it, you know what I mean? Yeah, so many things are going through my mind, baby true. Especially I love your memories of growing up, that you were running barefoot through your neighborhood, and like that's, and you're like, oh, maybe it was a little hippy dippy. It certainly was. And there's nothing wrong with that. And again, it's a testament to the current times, like how we do need to be community and have community values in this time of social media, which I've said it before on this show. I love the fact that this show is a platform for what it is, because we're on social media, and social media is such a battleground and such a weapon to divide people, right? And I'm just like on this crusade to connect people, right? So so it's like, I'm fighting on their own platform, and I love this. I just feel so drawn to this mission, and having these conversations, and sharing people's stories. So Again, I want to be very respectful of you and privacy and your story. I mean, but I'm also very curious of growing up. I love what you said about your parents. They still love each other, and you didn't even skip a beat, and so that's very evident. You know what I mean? And I think when someone understands a certain level of love, they can speak about it from that place. I feel like that's where it's coming from. From you. Um, like what significant moments in your life can you remember, or do you want to talk about, to tell me, that led you to want to perform? I mean, again, I'm assuming all of the good things I've already heard, just love in general, just being surrounded with so much love is it. You know what I mean? That's the basic ingredient. But I mean, I want to hear from your perspective what you feel like shaped you and made you so excited. I'm so happy when people are nervous to be on the show. All it is me and you on a Zoom call talking. You know what I mean? That's all that it really is. And sharing this moment with our friends out there and everybody who's interested. And if they're interested, that's awesome, because we just want to share that energy, right? Of love and connection. So sorry, I asked you a question and then I started to blabber. So
No, I love it. I love it. Because it's so true. So to reiterate your question, if I heard it right, like I guess like kind of how I got into performing and how my life shaped that.
yeah, what do you feel were the significant events of your life that brought you to who you are, made the decisions that you are? I mean, I'm imagining you have a great love for your father, who, again, isn't in the picture necessarily where you're growing up, but obviously was in the picture, right, of your life, and showed you love, and you loved him. You were able to reciprocate that love, which I think is just as important as receiving that love.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So that's really super important and super cool, that you've maintained that.
Thank you. Yeah, I definitely think it's interesting because there was definitely a moment growing up when I realized like, oh, being a Black girl with an absent father, that's a thing. There's something there that's a common trope. Because, it was kind of like almost expected at a certain point. People were not at all surprised that my father wasn't around. And that always I thought was interesting. And I think that there is still more we can all look at about, these kinds of things. But I do think like, my father was in a position where he couldn't be, the kind of father and the kind of partner that my mother maybe needed and that I needed, and thank goodness that I'm so blessed to have a mother who is strong, who is so strong and so incredible and so willing to do everything in her power to be the mother that she wants to be, and for her child to have the kind of life that I was able to have. And so, growing up, I definitely think, I'm really grateful that I was able to, any resentments that I maybe built or had because of the fact that I had an absent father, was always an open conversation, and like was never something that, I needed to feel shame about. And that I think is the first step in a lot of ways. In a lot of ways, I think that's really important. And then,
Yeah, absolutely.
I think the importance of like you were saying, we all have these different stories. And so I'm able to connect with so many people that have a similar story to me. And I'm also able to receive and share the different stories as well with people, which I think is cool. And that's a big reason why I love performing so much, is because that's your job. You're getting to be up there and help share a story, be a part of a story, and like in train in like catharsis with people, and like feel what other people have felt, or at least your version of that, which I think is super fun. And like when I started modeling, because that was a different thing. I was definitely because kind of going back to my name thing, I don't know, we have never met in person, but I'm about 6 feet tall. I used to be almost 300 pounds, Black woman, like named Baby. No one was giving me trouble because I was a baby, what I mean. And so like the modeling thing, I was, of course, the stigma about like, is this a vapid thing? The idea, some cultures believe like a photograph takes a piece of your soul. Like there's definitely like a lot of interesting, like just levels to that. And so I've definitely been exploring like, what is that to me? What does it mean to be captured in time through photography? Let alone trying to promote like an emotion in that moment, even if you're not feeling it. It's rather interesting. So I think like my personal story has allowed me to tap into many different things when I'm doing my art, if that kind of makes sense.
Absolutely makes sense, 1,000,000% to me. I'm a photographer, and the fact that you even consider what you're doing art, to me says a lot. You know what I mean? And what you're saying about it says a lot. It's really important. And there are definitely a lot of stereotypes around photography, especially photography of women. You know what I mean? And that's difficult because that just happens to be one of the things I like to photograph. But it's more, I think it's funny because I went to art school with your mom, and I think an important memory for me is sitting around in I think it was our sculpture class, right? We're all sitting on the floor, and we were told to think about what our favorite object is. I think we were even told to bring it in. So what was described to us, what was, think about your favorite object and bring it in. And they gave examples like a bottle, a shell, a flower. It was kind of like these tangible things, right? And my answer was the human body, and it wasn't male or female. It was just like the artistic expression of like David, you know what I mean, like of a sculpture, or of a human body that was, a fit human body, you know what I mean. Was, to me, that was an object that I related to. And it was just interesting years and years later when I started to become a photographer, and that became kind of one of the things I like to shoot, because I was like, oh wow, and it was both male and female, and it was just, I guess that's kind of just like, what's inside you is inside you, you know what I mean? The things that you resonate with, you resonate with on whatever different levels. And I see Tim just showed up. Hola, Tim. Ninja Kitty, True, Janice, and everyone. He's welcome, Tim. Tim is one of my regular listeners who I always love. We love Tim. Awesome. I love it. So, what's your favorite thing to do? Modeling, performing. I mean, what's your,
So kind of stepping outside of the, quarantine box a little bit now, especially more this year. It seems like work is starting to pick up more. And I live in New Mexico, which is, the film industry here is expanding quickly. People call it Tamalewood, which I love so much.
Tamalewood. I never heard that. That's great.
And so, Netflix moved their studios here, and, so people have, not concerning the strike that's going on right now, but people have, started to work a little bit more, these past, I would say the past, like maybe 9 months.
Yep.
And so I've been, kind of dipping my feet into that because I am trained in theater, but I did want to check out what's going on in film. And I've had
Cool.
so much fun. I'm always surprised how alive I feel after a day of like getting to come together with a bunch of awesome people and like create towards a common goal. I'm always like, oh my gosh, this does fuel me every single time consistently, which is a really fun feeling. I'm really grateful that I've known kind of that did fuel me since a young age. So that has been like super fun. And so I've, all aspects of this kind of stuff. I've been able to do like production assistant this year on some like music videos, and I've been able to do, some modeling work on some Netflix shows and stuff like that. And so I've definitely been, seeing what's around. And as I continue to do that, I think just being in artistic community, whatever that means, that's my favorite. Because I love it all genuinely. I started doing kind of the techie stuff, and then I hopped on stage, and so I genuinely I love it all, and I want to be as well-rounded as I can be within this. I want to understand all the sides of it because they're all interesting to me. Yeah. So I know that's not a very specific answer, but it's an honest one.
No, well, you know what? It's funny because I'm not, I mean, I guess I am interviewing you, quote unquote. This is an interview, right? But I feel like I'm not interviewing you for a job, but like if I was, like, you're perfect. I mean, you're like, that's like, I have no doubt that you will be successful because I'm in that too, you know what I mean? And I know exactly what you're talking about. And the fact that you even mentioned and said that you look at it like working with a bunch of people who are trying to create a common goal. I mean, such an important perspective that, you immediately recognize the people that are there that don't have that perspective, right? They don't really usually fit that way. And unfortunately, sometimes they're there, you know what I mean? There are those people who, who have different goals and different reasons for being there, you know what I mean? But but that doesn't matter, right? What matters is you and how you look at it and what you have. You're the kind of person I love to talk about, the fact that it's like you go into a situation thinking, what can I bring to the table here? Not what am I going to go home with? You know what I mean? Because you know that just because you're bringing something to the table, you're going to go home with something, and it's going to be that satisfaction that you're talking about. You know, absolutely. And that's great. I mean, I'm super happy for you, and I have no doubt that you'll be successful. I wish you lived closer. I would definitely do some shooting with you. Maybe one day we'll get to shoot together.
Maybe one day, right?
You
Thank you.
know what? I do know some people in New Mexico that are working out there. We can certainly talk about that after the show. I'll hook you up with some names, people who are just an ex-girlfriend of mine, Janine Maloney, is a makeup artist, and she's working all industry stuff. And since she moved out there, she's done nothing but been happy and growing in the field. And and that's great, because that might be something too, like you experience, and you're like, oh, I like doing special effects, like.
Yeah, I actually just got to do my first gig as a makeup artist, and it was so fun to paint on someone else's face. Who knew?
That's awesome. Yeah, no, that's really awesome. And
Thank you.
I'm
No, I'd
super
love to
excited about
connect. Building community, that's what it's all about.
yeah. So we didn't talk about what else did you say? You did music. We didn't talk about music. What are you doing with music?
Okay, so music is not something I was ever trained in, but just
Mhm.
like most people on this planet, it's something I've always loved, of course. And so I think it was my senior year of high school. Me and some friends got together and made a little band, the Nighttime What Ifs, if anyone wants to check us out.
The nighttime
And
what
we were,
if?
yeah, the Nighttime What Ifs. It's the name of it comes from the end of a Silverstein poem where it says like the nighttime what ifs.
I like that.
That's so fun because especially when you're with your friends listening to music, the nighttime what ifs, they tend to hit, what if we went to McDonald's right now? What if we kissed? What if we like left this town? That kind of fun stuff. So
That's
the
cool. I love that. So wait, that can be found on Google. If I Google that, I can
yeah,
find
we're on
some
YouTube,
remnants of that
Spotify,
probably.
Apple Music. Yeah.
Wow.
And we were actually nominated for the best pop album of New Mexico last year. And so yeah,
Wow.
that was super fun. But I think it was just another way to kind of create with people, and definitely like music, when you have access to people that can play guitar or play the drums, like it is so fun to play around with that.
Yeah.
And this winter I actually had the opportunity to go to Key West as a backup singer. Um,
Wow.
it was a festival called the Meeting of the Minds, which is like where all the like Margaritaville Jimmy Buffett fans hang out in Key West for a week.
Wow.
And community that is different than the community I'm surrounded with daily, and such a welcoming community too. And so that was like my first time getting kind of paid to get to go somewhere else and sing and hang out, and that was super fun. And so
That's
I
awesome.
think music is definitely something that I want to continue to, of course, listen to and make forever.
That's cool. So you're a backup singer mostly, or
Yeah, I was a backup singer this winter, but then I'm the lead singer and songwriter for the Nighttime What Ifs, along with my friend Cara McGee Russell, who is so awesome.
nice.
She's our bass player, and she sings with me.
Shout out.
Wow.
Awesome. So that's your current project as well.
Yeah, music is definitely something, as I'm like getting more and more out into the community of like people who are also trying to do things my age, out in like the city and stuff. I'm connecting with a lot of like really talented like music producers and people who are like, I'm really loving their sound and they're so down to collaborate and see what's going on. So I'll send you something if I get something out.
Yeah, awesome. I would love to hear it. You know what? That's actually a good turn for our conversation. So you're 21 years old. You know what I mean? And that is to me relatively young, and you've got so much ahead of you. And I think that that's also your perspective, which is really an important part of being successful at it. So that's good. And you just said some things about your peers. So I'm curious as to your thoughts of your peers, because I see, I try not to make my show about it like much negative stuff, but I certainly see a contingency of youth, that doesn't seem to really have interests. You know what I mean? Like when I see young kids and people who are just looking at their phones and scrolling, and I'm like, doesn't that inspire you to make some content? Like, well, you're just looking at content. Like, wouldn't you like? Because that's what I do, right? I can make content and do videos, and this right here, this is content. Like, so do you find, I'm tripping over my words, do you find that people your age are more inspired or less inspired?
I think the people my age, in my personal opinion, are at a really interesting point in history. Because like the age of like going to the library and looking through the thing to find the book about the thing so you could write your essay on the thing, but then the book's checked out and like that is gone. Like you can Google and find out anything you want to know within seconds.
Right.
And so there's so much, knowledge that comes with that, which is awesome. And like you were saying, there's definitely like a battleground on social media, but it's also a place where people are able to come together in huge numbers and find community. And like, so it's an interesting place to be. But I definitely think that like the kids my age, they're aware of what's going on in the world more than people ever really were back in the day. Like I can look up right now the current politics of the furthest country away from me and get some kind of an answer that would help me understand. And I think a lot of kids my age are understanding that we're in the second recession of our lifetime. The world, we're trying our best with our individual consumption, but the world is not as healthy as it deserves to be for what it can do, how it takes care of us. There are war after war after war getting started, and the people that we've had to look at as running I live in America, running our country. We are very confused about where we fit into this place, because we know we don't just want to join society because it's falling apart, and we don't like that.
Right.
We also know that as individuals, the concept of being the ones to change society, what do we know? You know what I mean? And so it's definitely like, I think so many people my age are trying to figure out, where do I fit in? How can I make, substantial change? And is this worth it? Because at the end of the day, like you said, we are on our phones, doom scrolling, as some people call it, seeing information that is mind-bogglingly like the closest thing we have to evil. We're seeing that, and it's being normalized every single day.
Right.
And then the food we're eating is absolute poison. So then that's not really helping our psyche or our physical body. And then, then we're told we need to, be locked up for a little bit to protect the world and not see, our friends in the formative parts of our years. We're definitely having to kind of rebuild the way things are set up in a way. I don't want to
Sure.
but
Okay, so this is great. I love this because you're representative of that, and I love the fact that you're able to represent that and so articulately. Do you feel a sense of accountability? Like, I know you said, is it worth it? Is it even going to be worth it? I mean, like, is it I'm imagining there is a sense of hopelessness, you know what I mean? Which I certainly understand. I'm certainly older than you, and I've not seen the world in this state. I do believe that this is a very significant moment in humankind. And I guess that kind of leads to the next question, to kind of steer the ship a little bit away from that. Is your spirit is obviously very, very positive. You were surrounded by love growing up. You have a tremendous amount of love to give. It's evident, and again, it's like I'm super excited for the things that you're going to find to put that energy into, just as Baby True, which is amazing. But how do you do that? In such a world that you just described, because you're obviously aware that the state of the world is not so great. Without getting too verbose about it.
No, I hear you, because it's good to be able to talk about these truths with a smile on our face, because we need to address them.
Yeah.
And I definitely think, I don't have a concrete answer. If anyone knows what to do, put it in the chat, because I am up for it.
Imagine that. Put it in the chat. If you know what to do, put it in. Imagine that we solve all of the world's problems in this right here tonight. That would be amazing. Yeah, no, I mean,
but I think, like you were saying, like it really is the expansion of our consciousness. Like as more of us get to a place where we just are fed up with the concept of, or not the concept, the reality of what is happening. You know, more people than ever, I'm pretty sure, are being diagnosed with depression, and also more people than ever are deciding they don't want to have children. They don't want to continue, you know, bringing people into this world for great reason, you know, for almost responsible reason. But I do think like I want to take advantage of, you know, me and my friends, you know, we want to take advantage of where we're at, you know, like our age, because it is hard. Sometimes at 21, we do feel like, oh my gosh, like I don't know what I'm going to do. I don't have any of my stuff together. I'm 21, like I'm an adult, like I need to get this together right now. But it's also like we need to ground ourselves and remind ourselves like we are lucky to be, you know, healthy at this age if we are, and move from there. You know, I really don't know
No,
yet.
listen, that's a great answer, and again, a great perspective and a great attitude to have. So I guess personally, I mean, I'm imagining you have some sort of connection to metaphysical beliefs, right? Um, or do you?
I would say, yeah, like of course, it's difficult. I've never met someone that says that they don't, if I'm being completely honest.
Mhm.
Fully. Even my atheist friends, once we
Right,
get to chatting,
right.
you know, they hit a few notes that I'm like, "Ooh, that's
You know, yeah, I think as a human, you've got to think of some of these things. You know, it's just natural. Hat Pauser is saying the late Dr. Wayne Dyer. Interesting you say that because I just recently, one of my friends made a comment about I am, which happened to be one of my favorite meditations when I first learned about meditating. And so I sent that as a comment. But every time I asked Deepak Chopra what he suggested to solve something, the answer was always the same: meditate, uh, which is great. You know, and I do believe, and I guess that's part of being spiritual, right? Is believing that we're a collective. So you've got to believe that everybody's got a part of that in them, even if they haven't become aware of it, that it is a part of them, right? So you're just making me think. This is very interesting. Do you have any thoughts about, or any even knowledge? Do you talk about um 3D versus 5D, three-dimensional versus five-dimensional?
like how we're in the kind of third dimension right now."
Right.
Yeah, definitely, and I think, like, the way that I personally have kind of internalized it is almost biblical in a sense. I kind of think, like, the fifth dimension is the closest way that I've maybe seen it written out was when the Bible describes, the Garden of Eden, and
Mhm,
how, like, the Garden of Eden is fully being one with and aware of the universe in its entirety.
mhm.
And that is the fifth dimension. Like that's kind of where we're trying to get, right? And that meditating, I see you, like that is definitely, and I think like, you know, when I dream, I think that that's me kind of, I'm able to go to maybe like different dimensions, or, you know, even meet up with people. I've talked to my friends and we've like tried to meet up, and you
Cool.
know, it could just be, you know, goofing around. But I do think like dreams connect us to other dimensions subconsciously in a sense. And then I think like when you meditate, people are able to consciously connect to these other dimensions, which just expands their consciousness. And I, yeah, I definitely think that's awesome.
I believe that too. Yeah, absolutely. So do you meditate? Do you play
It's,
around with any of that stuff?
I want to like, have you heard of Vipassana?
No, not specifically, I don't think.
It's like a 10-day, I dare say, retreat.
Mhm,
You're not allowed to talk or interact like with
mhm,
other
mhm,
people
mhm.
verbally.
That I've
And
heard, yeah.
you just meditate for like 10
Mhm,
hours a day.
mhm.
I definitely think that's something that I want to do within the next, you
Wow.
know, because I definitely think like that is something I want to explore. And I might not have the personal tools to, you know how, you know,
W
I could do it, of course, alone as a ritual, which I think is beautiful, but I would
Right.
love to get to practice it in a way that is, you know, honed in like that.
That's awesome, and I've certainly heard of that, and I've known people who have experienced that. I don't. I would love to know what your thoughts are. What is the draw to that? What do you think? What do you think the personal gain would be out of not speaking? Like, do you, I mean, I just never understood it from my perspective. Like, ooh, that's something I want to do. I never felt like that. So I'm curious as to why you feel like that's something you want to do.
That's interesting. Well, that's interesting that the thing that, like, kind of popped out to you is the no speaking, because that to me is very, like, um, there's so many ways to communicate without speaking, and I'm not talking body language. I
Right.
think we could probably tap into something,
Sure.
right now, you and I maybe.
Sure.
And so I would be curious to explore on that, but also just I
Okay.
think being
That makes sense.
in and a part of a community where, you don't need to, where you are recognized and you are honored even, but where you're not, spoken to.
Right.
And like where conversation isn't something that you're having to flood your brain with thinking about, because like there are some social anxieties and stuff that come up when we are having conversations, especially with strangers.
Sure.
So like, how beautiful to be in a space together where you're being held in that space together and
Right.
not having to flood your brain with those ideas, and then like physically to be able to sit still for 10 hours, because I remember, like I said, when I was close to 300 pounds, like sitting in crisscross applesauce for me was painful. It was very uncomfortable.
Wow.
It hurt. And so now I would love to like not push my body, but see what it feels like to try and be still and be grounded in that way, because that's something I definitely haven't done probably since I
That
was in
makes
the
sense.
womb. You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
yeah, no, and now it makes sense, and that totally makes sense. And Leslie Ann Slavin's out there saying, when we sit still for 100 hours in 10 days, the plants start to glow, which I definitely can understand that. And there are certainly aspects of um, shamanism and kind of these retreats and going to live with the monks that do intrigue me, you know what I mean? And I do feel like, oh, I feel like I could certainly be fulfilled in certain ways that other things just wouldn't fulfill me in, so I definitely get that. And I do get what you're saying, and that's really, I think, I don't know if honorable is the right word, but admirable, to see a 21-year-old woman who, like, that's what you want to experience, and just the whole reasoning behind it, and the commitment that it would take, is just really amazing, 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 amazing. And Tim is saying, oh, to be that young again, but then I would have the wisdom that I've gained. I wouldn't, although since I've been with Sonia and Tehran, I feel born as young as ever. Again, Tim's story is so amazing, and Tim, I hope everything is great with Taryn. Tim went through such an adverse life with their different medical conditions and relationships with psychotic people and things like that, and has finally just come to a place where he met the love of his life. He just had a baby,
Oh,
and
congratulations.
he's just in such an amazing place, and he glows. It's just, I love being able to see that in people. There's something, I mean, I don't have any sort of I don't practice talking to spirits or things like that, but there are certain things spiritual about me that I love, and they're just simple things, uh intuiting people, like I did with you, just being able to just be like, that person is awesome, I want to talk to them, and I just so I'm definitely enjoying this conversation. Just checking in the chat, see if we got anything new happening. So okay, so Baby True is out there. I also, I mean, I don't know if I necessarily want to talk about it, but this is interesting too. Janine, the person I want to introduce you to out in New Mexico, also went through the bariatric surgery. She was like, 300 pounds or something at one point in her life, and, went through this change. And, I think that might be something you guys can relate to each other on, and it's probably a journey that you don't get to share with many people, or a part of a journey that you can talk about. I can't even imagine that, but that was something that I really admired about her before I even knew her. And that was kind of, I was like, I really want to meet this person, and it was very cool. So there's this determination. So it's amazing talking to you. I really appreciate you being on the show. I want to give you the floor for a little bit. If there's anything specific that you want to talk about or bring to the table, or your thoughts on consciousness. I mean, I could certainly continue talking to you about your age and the different things that people think, because I am curious about that. But you tell me, what do you got on your mind? What did you hope to experience, and how are you feeling right now?
I'm feeling so good. I mean, you said it best. Like, of course, you're nervous to do anything new, but nervous and excited are, go hand in hand, right? So I was so excited to come onto the show, and then immediately just getting to chat with you, I was like, okay, it's just a fun little
That's
conversation.
it.
Yeah, that was super fun. And yeah, thank you so much for inviting me on and for listening to me and for, chatting with me about this stuff, because it's definitely some fun topics you bring up. Thank you.
Awesome. What do you have going in the future? I didn't. Oh, you know what? I didn't get to put up your Instagram. Let me see. What's your Instagram? Baby True, right?
B_true12.
B_true12. I'm just gonna put that in a banner here. So, talk to me while I do that.
Okay, so coming up, so one of my best friends in the whole world from growing up on the Oregon coast, another amazing, all things are attached to each other at all times kind of a moment. She just drove down from Oregon on a little solo woman road trip, totally killed it. And she's here now. We're about to head out in a few days and do a
Nice.
little road trip. Like you were saying, we are on our phones a lot, and we are being influenced by what we are seeing on our phones a lot. So I'm so excited to go on this little road trip and, put the phones down for a bit, connect with nature again, go on some hikes with one of my best friends. And then we're going through, Utah, Nevada,
Awesome.
California, up to Oregon. And then I'm going to get to work as a camp counselor this summer at the camp that I actually grew up going to as a child. So I'm super excited to get to connect with kids and see like how that works, how the kids even younger than me are thinking, because let me tell you, they are thinking. So I am very
Awesome.
excited
So you think the kids younger, even younger than you are thinking?
because the truth is I had probably about like 11 solid years without technology, and especially like coming from, like I said, a hippy dippy community, maybe like even more than that. But I had a good amount of time that, technology was not in the schools or anything like that. It was still pen and paper. These kids nowadays, they don't have that. They came into the world and iPads were in their classrooms. They were in their, like, in the doctor's waiting room when they came out, so it's definitely like they've been connected on these things since the get. And so I'm excited to see how that's affected what they're thinking.
So you think that besides the doom scrolling, you think there are good aspects to that?
Nothing's neither good nor bad, just thinking makes it so, right? But I definitely think
I
that
love that. That's great.
there are some kids are able to see a lot of different perspectives. So they're not just listening to what their parents are feeding them. They're able to kind of see a lot of different perspectives and decide what works best for them, which I think also has the negative aspects of they're hearing a lot of things and acting on a lot of things that they might not even be able to fully understand what it is that they're digesting.
Right.
So yeah, I definitely think we shall see how this affects all of us.
You got a fan out there, Jaden Chavez. Love you, baby. True. And Pat Powser, dang, quoting Hamlet too. I think you made a new fan out there. Definitely here at the live stream of consciousness. We definitely love Baby True. Super happy to be able to share this moment with you. And you brought up so many things that I want to talk about. Maybe we'll have you back again, just to hit on some of those things. Do you have any like words of wisdom you want to share with my audience before we call it a night?
Stay true to yourself, keep practicing the things that you love. And, in a lot of ways, life is like a fart. If you have to push too hard, it's probably shit. So, just, calm down and stay grounded.
Awesome. True. I love again the power of your name and your being and how it matches your energy so perfectly. And Pauser, these star children are something else. You are a star child, according to Hap Pauser out there, which I think is a compliment. So awesome. I'm going to put you backstage. I'm going to sign off. Hang out. Don't go anywhere. And hopefully we'll have you back on the show. Thank you so much for being here. I think you made some new friends and you made some people smile. So thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you to everyone who watched. Have a lovely evening.
Here we go, right? That exhale that I always get to do at the end of this. Feels so amazing. I'm so blessed to have the presence of just such amazing people. Thank you. Thank you guys for being here and being able to do this. And I'm going to figure out how to even make it better. You guys, I really appreciate you being here. Ninja Kitty, I was really thinking about you today, so I'm glad I got to do that little tribute to you. If you guys can think about any ways to make the show better, don't be afraid to reach out and tell me. Share the crap out of this if you can. Look up Baby True on her Instagram, which is scrolling across the bottom of the screen. I believe next week, if I'm not mistaken. Let me just take a quick look. Yes, it's Acid for Squares. Oh, I'm super excited. So next week, you guys might remember have had both of these people on my show before, but now they are married and they have a company together. I have Cody Snyder and Tanya Dahl, who is now Tanya Snyder, or maybe she's Tanya Dahl. I don't know if she took his last name. Coming on the show. They've started a media company, did their website. I am super excited to talk to them. They're both amazing, have had amazing experiences with ayahuasca and plant medicine and healing their whole family. So that's what's coming up next week. Am I streaming on multiple platforms? I am on Facebook as well, yes, and I do believe my YouTube channel is linked to Rumble. I haven't checked it lately. I don't really hear a lot from Rumble, but if you could help me out with that, hat, DM me, and we can talk about that stuff. I would love to just bring this message to more people. And I think I mentioned I'm going to be using my old intro as my outro. Thank you for being here this week, and I will see you next week. Bye-bye.